Hello viewers, welcome to episode 9 of the Smart Mobility Revolution. My name's Kevin Borras, being joined as ever by Bob McQueen, Smart City Expert. Bob is one of 3 co-authors of a new book, we're going to call it a book for now, called the Smart Mobility Revolution. It's actually not just a book, it's a body of knowledge which includes evergreen content, used to be called printed content, as well as audio, video and other educational content. Today, as I said, this is episode 9 and we're going to go through every one of the 16 chapters of Bob's book. We're looking today at the elements of smart mobility and the elements of a smart city. So Bob, what are those elements we've been talking about? This is episode 9. We've been talking about it for some time. The idea of smart cities and smart mobility has been in people's minds for decades. But what are those elements that people need to focus on in order to make their city a smart one and to bring in smart mobility options?
Before I answer your question, Kevin, I just want to share with our viewers that we have now negotiated an agreement to have the book published. We can't reveal the name of the publisher yet because we haven't signed the contract, but that's only a matter of paperwork. So
well, that's great. I didn't know that. So I'm hearing it. I'm hearing it as the viewers are. So that's good news. Good. Excellent stuff.
So my co-authors, Shafia and Amar, are very happy. So we have this global thing going on between London, Perpignan, Abu Dhabi and Dubai. It's pretty nice.
Excellent. It's typical of the world we live in. No barriers, no borders anymore. Up to it.
Right. So I'm not doing the traditional consultant act of I don't have an answer to the question, so I'm going to stall while one comes to me. I do actually have some answers. So.
Please, yeah, you're not a politician, Bob, but you know this by now.
No, definitely not a politician. I don't have a sufficiently good filter for that.
You're honest. Always a bad trade.
So, elements of smart mobility. Yeah. It's changed. I mean, back in the day, the elements of smart mobility would be buses, cars, trains, aviation, maritime, and pedestrian and bicycle. Now we have new modes like micro-mobility, which sometimes my colleagues in United Arab Emirates refer to as soft mobility, but essentially electric scooters, electric bikes, other means of propulsion, and the whole concept of don't own the vehicle, just pick one up. It's lying in the street. It's not in a docked situation. Use your pre-registered smartphone app and off you go, and then you leave it wherever you are. So that's changing elements. And of course, automated vehicles. We're seeing a lot of automated shuttles coming into the market. A fixed route where there is a certain degree of control over the environment, and that's changing things rapidly. So those are one of the elements are the modes, and there are more modes available now. And we're definitely paying more attention to, I guess in the past, what would have been called the minority modes. You know, cycling, walking. You know, I know in some cities in the US, if you're walking along the street, the police will stop you and ask you if you're okay. But that's changing. We're getting more used to the idea. Of course, the caveat I would put on the micro-mobility modes is if there's a thunderstorm or if it's 95 degrees Fahrenheit outside, you may not want to use some of those modes. You know, there needs to be an account of not just the cost and the reliability of travel, but the traveling environment, traveling conditions.
Yeah, sure. So if let's, for example, you are a smart city advisor from a Central European country. Right. What decisions do you need to make in order to choose the right elements for your city? Because what works for London isn't going to work for Gothenburg, and what works for Prague is not going to work for Oslo. So what elements do you need to consider in order to make the right choices?
Well, a lot of the choice depends on what you've already got. What have you invested money in so far? Because that tends to fit your environment, your context, your needs, your topology. I mean, the big feature in London is the River Thames, which splits north and south. And you know as well as I do, Kevin, the people in the north don't like the people in the south as well. So there's more than a physical divide, there's a cultural divide. And I wonder if you need micro-mobility systems for the north and south separately.
Maybe.
Well, I wonder what happened.
It's a fair point because the driving's different. Once you're driving in the south, once you cross over a bridge into North London, inverted commas, people would say that the driving is different. People drive in a different way. It's perceptible. You can actually tell. Is that the same in Budapest then, which obviously split by the river, Buda on one side.
Yeah, well,
the other.
Budapest, the name comes from the Buddhas and the pests.
Yeah,
I think I'd rather be a Buddha than a pest, but
I think
yeah, I know a
yes,
song about
yes,
that. Yeah.
yeah. But I mean, is that
So,
the same? Did you have to so let's say Budapest is split by a famous river? Is it the same thing? Does the north part of that city have to consider elements in a
well,
different
I
way?
think you've got to choose solutions that fit with your environment. I guess people would call it appropriate technology rather than
Mm,
high technology. But there's also very advanced technologies that can be used as well. So when you're
yeah.
considering what to do, the smart thing is to be informed. Go find out what other people have done. Actually, go talk with them and we've talked about this already, get the under the hood view rather than the shop window view of what happened.
Yeah.
People publish all the nice stuff, but get into the weeds about the things that didn't work so well, and then use that as a basis for an informed decision on how to move forward. Now, if you do a benefit cost analysis, there are some things that pop up near the top all the time. One is electronic payment, and one is traffic management, signal control. Electronic payment because it brings in money.
Mm-hmm.
If you do it early, you start to get revenue coming in, you save money in the cost of operations, and that will help to feed the rest of your program.
Yeah.
Traffic management, it is the original intelligent transport system. It's the original smart mobility. The US claims to have invented it in the 1930s in Cleveland, but you and I both know that the British invented it by installing a set of traffic signals outside the Houses of Parliament in the late 1800s.
Yep. Indeed.
And there's a lesson in that experience as well, because it was gas powered. It had a semaphore arm like a railway signal. And 1 week after it was installed, it exploded and injured a policeman. And there was no more signals in London for 50 years.
Yep.
So what's the lesson? If you're not sure it's going to work, don't try it in a high profile place. So that's part of the implementation strategy.
Yeah.
So getting back to what's elements, there's a number of big elements: electronic payment, traffic management. London's pretty advanced in traffic management and in electronic payment. Also, we're hearing a lot more today about equity. So elements that will support equity. And sometimes it's hard to make a connection between equity and smart mobility. But one of the obvious ones is good smart mobility will use the best sensors available. The best sensors available will discriminate in a positive way. They'll actually be able to tell who's traveling. And the marketing people tell us that with the big data and analytics we have around now, we can have a market segment of one. So we can actually customize the journey to you, not to a group. People get offended by groups because you always end up putting people in the wrong group. So market segment of one, making you feel as if the route has been scouted out ahead of you. Excuse me. And then, kind of build it from there. I'll give you an example. Traffic signals. If we add LiDAR to traffic signals, not only can we tell how many people are waiting to cross, which is a good measure to optimize, but we can also tell travel speed. How fast are people walking across the road? Right now, we assume 1.2 meters per second. And it doesn't matter whether you're a senior citizen or an Olympic athlete, we assume that's the speed that you will cross the road at.
Yeah.
So by being more refined in our approach, we can be more equitable. And there are numerous examples, even using electronic payment for pricing strategies, being able to customize the price to the individual and being able to offer conditional discounts. If you do this, we'll give you that.
Sure. So how does your body of knowledge address that idea? So if someone's reading it, watching it, listening to it, what are they getting out of the whole experience?
Well, there are elements of the body of knowledge that fit together. The elements themselves, the technologies, and the best practices, information from around the globe. These three kind of come together to inform the reader about what's available, what's being used, what works well, what needs to be looked at carefully, and I think those things all go together. The elements, maybe elements is a good word because it's like a periodic table, a range of individual chemicals or individual elements or substances that you can bring together. So you should have a periodic table. You should have a master plan of how these things fit together. You might start off at the bottom left-hand corner, but you're eventually going to cover the whole table. So you need to know how to get there.
Excellent. So that's how we're dealing with that subject, and we're looking at the various elements of what is smart mobility and smart mobility and smart cities. So in episode 10 of this video series, we're going to be looking at opportunities and challenges as well. So please join us for that. Thank you, Bob, for your time, and we'll catch up with you shortly. Thank you.